next year, any tiny vote margin, a tiny vote margin in the House, a 60-vote threshold in the Senate that requires bipartisan support for passage of most bills, a president-elect who, even as president, has only sporadic interest in the particulars of the legislative process, and so many members who reject legislative reality, insisting instead on impossible outcomes. I agree with all of that except the first sentence, because they are not here but for the fact that Elon Musk thought he was the president-elect. And he could get on Twitter, X, whatever the hell he's calling it today, and just tweet crap for hours. And at the end of those hours, Donald Trump and eventually J.D. Vance, I hear he's still in politics. I'm not sure. But J.D. Vance and Musk and Trump get on board. What did you see on the Hill in those moments? How did you understand the evolution of this?
Yeah, it was already in trouble. Let's be clear about that. This bill was already in trouble as lawmakers are starting to pour through it, as us reporters were starting to report out what was actually in this really large spending package that was supposed to be a small package. But then Musk came out on Twitter, and when he started trashing the bill, that was pretty much game over. I was talking to lawmakers who were whipping out their phones saying, did you see this tweet from Elon Musk? I mean, that he is really running the show. They are really looking to him for cues about how they should be acting in Congress, just like they used to do with Donald Trump. And I'm told that Donald Trump actually was not really planning on weighing in on this spending bill initially. Yes, he had been pushing behind the scenes to have the debt ceiling taken care of before he got into office. But he was fine with what was happening. It wasn't until Musk maybe got out ahead of him and started trashing this bill on X that then Trump decided to come out and call for something different than what Musk was calling for. Let's be clear, Musk was calling for spending cuts. Donald Trump wanted to completely erase the borrow limit here. But I think one of the lessons going forward is that it is a lot easier to blow up a bill than it is to actually put one together and to find consensus. And that is something that is going to be a huge challenge for Republicans in these next 2 years, in these next few months even, as they're trying to do things like now raise the debt ceiling, trying to do this large reconciliation package to slash taxes, to border wall funding. They're going to have another government funding deadline, and they couldn't even do it with Republicans in the driver's seat. So this is going to be a huge challenge. Like I said, the Republican dysfunction was a constant theme of this 118th Congress. And so it's in some ways not surprising that this was the ending to this Congress. But this is just, a taste of what's in store over these next few years.
And Melanie, part of that dysfunction is the fact that they have an incoming president and party leader who is constantly threatening them with primaries if they do not go along with his bidding. I want to read you this from our colleague Sahil Kapoor. Trump's demand that Congress extend or abolish the debt ceiling to take it off his plate next year failed dramatically. On Wednesday, he threatened electoral primary challenges against any Republican who voted to fund the government without dealing with the debt limit. On Friday, 170 House Republicans defied him and did just that. Why did the threat not work this time?
I think there's a strength in numbers aspect to this. You can't primary 170 Republicans. It's just not feasible. Some of these guys, too, they have really strong brands and name ID. They've been in their districts forever. They feel comfortable. I was talking to one lawmaker, Thomas Massey, who was really leading the charge against some of this stuff. He had gone up against a primary challenge before, and he won. And he said, now I have the antibodies. So Trump can come after me. He can come after Chip Roy. But once you win, you're on solid footing here.
That and a Kleenex.
Right. But I do think that some of these Republicans, believe it or not, they do have some red lines. They wanted to make clear what those were heading into these next 2 years. I don't think there's going to be a lot of instances where we see Republicans defying Trump over these next 2 years, but there are going to be some clashes. There are going to be some internal disagreements. I think most of the disagreement, frankly, is going to come internally between the moderate wing and the conservative wing, the fiscal conservative hawks. There are going to be a lot of questions about how they deliver on taxes, how they deliver on government funding. Again, this was supposed to be just a stopgap spending bill. If they couldn't even get this over the finish line quickly and painlessly, just imagine what's going to happen when they actually need to do a massive funding package and when Republicans are completely in control. Remember, Democrats have really carried pretty much every single significant piece of legislation. And not to mention saving Speaker Mike Johnson earlier this year. They've really been controlling things, even though they're in the minority. So I think it's also a big question for Democrats about how they're going to handle these next 2 years as well.
Well, what is your reporting telling you about that? Because Democrats, even in the not even just this New World Order post-midterm elections, but in every piece of legislation that has passed in the 118th Congress that was central to the functioning of the government, Democrats did cross the aisle to do what needed to be done. Democratic votes delivered these pieces of legislation. Same thing that happened last night in the House. Yep. However, it didn't look like Democrats were rewarded for that in the midterms. And in my talking to Democratic lawmakers, that's something that they recognize. But they still have to govern. They still have to do their jobs. So what is your reporting telling you about what their posture is going to be in the 119th Congress? And I mean, hat tip to Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, because Democrats were in array.
Yeah, they were, right? They were. That is something that Democrats are wrestling with when you talk to them. I think this episode this week was really illustrative of how they're going to act. They weren't going to bail out. They had this negotiated deal with Johnson. He backed out, and they said, we're not going to bail you out. And, you know, they got something out of it. They won the fight with the debt ceiling. They wanted to keep that as leverage for next year. They didn't want to give that up. They were able to embarrass Mike Johnson. And then ultimately yesterday, Jeffries made the play call, and his conference and his caucus listened and said, okay, we'll support this and we'll help it get over the finish line. If it weren't for Democrats, it wouldn't have happened last night as quickly as it did. But going forward, there is this debate in the Democratic Party about, do we just sit back and let them, hey, you guys have unified control now, you guys need to figure it out on your own? Or do we use this opportunity to try to work with them and pick our spots and get some wins out of it? I mean, I think the risk for Democrats is that if they sit back, yes, there could be dysfunction, but the Republicans could also be successful without them, theoretically. So that is something that they are wrestling with. You know, there's a question about how much they're going to go after Trump, how much the resistance is going to be there versus actually trying to help govern and work with them. I don't think we know those answers yet to those questions, but it's definitely going to be a major storyline going forward.
Just a quick point before we let you jump. Tim Kaine, Senator Tim Kaine, resurrected the pediatric care provision that was stripped out of the bill. What was your reporting on that in terms of the concern around town, even among some Republicans, about, if not the look, the actual impact of stripping pediatric care research dollars out of it? Tim Kaine sort of brought it back to the Senate. It passed. Less money, but it did survive.
Right. It's easy to talk about these fights in terms of the politics and the dysfunction. You have to remember there are real impacts to what they are doing in Washington. And it was really easy for Elon Musk, a billionaire, to sit on Twitter and trash this deal for Trump to root for a shutdown. But there were real impacts and real stakes here. And after they removed the provision from that initial bill, they were able to kind of go around that in the Senate because it had already passed as a standalone bill in the House, and so they were able to take that up. They also took up the RFK Stadium bill, so that will enable a stadium to be built.
Develop the riverfront.
But
Welcome back to Washington.
I do think that there is, you know, the difference between the Senate and the House. There is going to be some tension there as well. It was because of the House and what they did that those bills were stripped out, and they said, you know what, we're going to go around you and we're going to pass them anyway.
Very good. I love it.
Melanie Zanona, thank you so much. Your first time at the table. We all hope you'll be back.
Thanks for having me, yes.
Up next, Congressman Sean Casten on Speaker Mike Johnson's uncertain future. And later, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley is running to lead the DNC. He joins us to share his plans for leading Democrats through the next 4 years. But first, breaking news out of Germany, where a car plowed through a Christmas market yesterday. The death toll, now 5. 200 more are injured. Police arrested a doctor from Saudi Arabia who lives in Germany. They believe he acted alone. Officials also saying there is no ongoing threat to the public. We're going to keep following this story and bring you updates throughout the day. We'll be right back.
Dad and I finally had that talk.
No, not that talk.
About what the future looks like.
For me, I may have trouble getting around, but I want to live in my home, where I'm comfortable, and my friends are nearby. I can do it with the help of a barber, personal shopper, an exercise buddy, someone who can help me live right at home.
Life's good
when you have a plan.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you with clearer skin. With Tremfya, most people saw 100% clear skin that stayed clear, even at 5 years.
Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine.
Emerge with clear skin. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
Y'all see this? Patrick Mahomes is saying goodbye. People was tripping.
Where are you going?
He was actually saying goodbye to his old phone.
I'm switching to the amazing new iPhone 16 Pro at T-Mobile.
It's the first iPhone built for Apple Intelligence. That's like peanut butter on jelly on gold. Get 4 iPhone 16 Pro on us. Plus 4 lines for $25. And save on every plan versus the other big guys. What a deal. That's a lot if you ask me. If y'all giving it away too fast, T-Mobile, slow down.
The online store that was just breached has my payment info.
During the holidays, think of all the places that can expose your info. LifeLock monitors millions of data points for identity theft. If there's a problem, we fix it, guaranteed.
Whoa, how'd you get your teeth so white?
You gotta use the right toothpaste.
Dr. C? Not all toothpaste whiten the same.
Crest 3D White removes 100% more stains for a noticeably whiter smile.
New personal best.
Crest.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Let it rain, Randy! Woo! Yes! By being prepared for anything! Woo! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
They are trying to shut down this legal loophole to get 100 milligram generic Viagra or 20 milligram generic Cialis delivered to your door for just 87 cents in less than 2 minutes. Do this. First, scan the QR code to go to getfridayplans.com. Then, you select if you need generic Viagra or Cialis, the quantity you need, and the dosage. I'll pick 100 milligram, thank you very much, and then their system will see if you qualify. Give it a second to find the best deals, and boom. Look at that. 87 cents for each 100 milligram generic Viagra tablet. 20 milligram Cialis is the same price. The prescription and shipping are free. Scan the QR code to go to getfridayplans.com and see for yourself. Don't wait. Scan the QR code or go to getfridayplans.com now.
President-elect Trump will likely inherit a chaotic situation in the Middle East.
We are getting a picture of what a Donald Trump cabinet will look like.
In El Paso.
From Philadelphia.
In Israel.
New Hampshire.
From MSNBC World Headquarters.
Each week on my podcast, I'm joined by uniquely qualified guests who help me take a big picture look at the issues, like Representative Jasmine Crockett, late night host Seth Meyers, former Attorney General Eric Holder, and many more. Why is this happening? Listen now.
Speaker Mike Johnson only passed the short-term spending bill because of Democrats yet again. 38 House Republicans defied both Johnson and Trump, refusing to pass their version of the deal that would have also raised the debt limit. When the next Congress is sworn in, Johnson must be reelected as Speaker. And it won't be easy. Already, 2 Republicans, Paul Gosar and Thomas Massie, have said they won't back him. Another, Marjorie Taylor Greene, floated the idea of picking a new leader. Her suggestion? Elon Musk. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman of Illinois, Sean Casten. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you,
Congressman. Nice to see you.
I am wondering, you all had a caucus meeting yesterday at 5 p.m. I know because I was going into